Did people in the Middle Ages truly believe they could conjure affection, bind a heart, or reveal their soulmate with a simple spell? Did a person in the 1300s ever really try to lure a crush with a piece of fruit? Number 7. The written love letter on lead. In the shadowy corners of medieval belief, where desperation met desire, individuals often sought to bind a lover's heart, not with tender words or shared glances, but with symbols etched onto unforgiving lead. This was a practice rooted in ancient traditions of defixiones, or curse tablets, but repurposed for the tumultuous landscape of human affection. Creation of such a love charm was rarely a spontaneous act. It demanded intent, a specific knowledge of materials, and an unwavering belief in sympathetic magic. It was not a casual endeavor, but rather a profound commitment to a magical act, often performed in secret, away from prying eyes and the disapproving gaze of the church. The very nature of lead, a heavy, dull metal, suggested permanence and an inescapable binding, a stark contrast to the fleeting nature of human emotions. The central component of this charm was naturally a small sheet of lead. This metal was chosen for its pliability, allowing for inscriptions even with a simple stylus, but also for its perceived ability to conduct and hold magical intent. Persons seeking to cast this charm would first need to acquire a suitable piece of lead. This was not a material found in every household, and its acquisition might involve visiting a craftsman or a metal worker, perhaps under the pretense of needing it for roofing or some other mundane purpose, or discreetly obtaining scraps from a building site. The lead often came as a thin sheet, perhaps no larger than a palm, its surface dull and cool to the touch. The act of handling it, feeling its weight, began the ritualistic process, imbuing it with the practitioner's fervent longing. Upon this chosen lead sheet, the person would carefully inscribe names. The name of the desired individual was paramount, often written multiple times, sometimes backwards, or interwoven with the name of the person performing the charm. This intertwining of names, a common thread in medieval magic, was believed to magically bind the two individuals together, not just in thought, but in spirit and affection. The stylus used for this inscription was rarely an ordinary writing tool. Sometimes it was a specially sharpened bone, a nail or a bronze implement chosen for its sharp point and its ability to incise the soft lead. Each stroke of the stylus was a deliberate act, a prayer, a command, and a visualization of the desired outcome. The act of engraving itself was painstaking. The dull scratch of metal on metal filled the quiet space, a physical manifestation of the mental focus required. Beyond names, specific symbols and sigils were also often inscribed. These arcane marks were not random doodles. They were drawn from grimoires, from astrological charts, or from folk traditions, each symbol carrying a specific power or association. A common symbol might be a simplified heart shape, or intertwined knots, or even planetary symbols, especially those associated with Venus, the Roman goddess of love, whose influence persisted even in the Christianized Middle Ages. Sometimes specific words of compulsion or desire, derived from Latin or the vernacular, would be added, though these were often highly abbreviated or arcane, known only to those with some mystical understanding. These phrases were not meant to be read by others, but rather to serve as direct instructions to the unseen forces believed to govern love and destiny. The language was often terse, direct, and commanding, leaving no room for misinterpretation by the spirits or energies invoked. To further personalize and strengthen the charm, a sliver of something intimately connected to the desired individual was sometimes affixed to the lead. This could be a strand of hair, a small piece of cloth from their garment, or even a few flakes of dried skin. The belief here was in sympathetic magic, that a part of a person retained a connection to the whole, and by acting upon the part, one could influence the whole. Personal items served as a direct conduit, a magical tether to the person whose heart was sought. Attaching these items was done carefully, often with beeswax or a specially prepared glue, ensuring they remained fixed to the lead and continued their magical connection. The inclusion of such a personal token elevated the charm from a general plea to a highly targeted, specific, magical operation, reinforcing its intended purpose. Once the names, symbols, and personal items were meticulously arranged on the lead, the sheet itself was usually rolled or folded. This act of folding or rolling was symbolic of containing the magical energy, of enclosing the intention, and of securing the desired outcome within the physical confines of the metal. Sometimes the lead sheet was pierced with a nail or a thorn, an act which was believed to pin or bind the will of the target, compelling them towards the practitioner. This was a more aggressive aspect of the charm, indicating a desire to dominate rather than merely attract. Pierced lead, tightly rolled, became a compact vessel of potent, unspoken desires. The final step in this elaborate charm was the disposition of the lead tablet. Its placement was critical, as it was believed to complete the magical circuit and activate its power. A common method was to bury the rolled lead in the earth, often near a crossroads beneath a threshold or in a graveyard. Burying it in a graveyard, especially near a fresh grave, was sometimes believed to harness the lingering energy of the deceased, or to ensure that the charm would be as enduring as death itself. Another practice involved throwing the lead into running water, such as a river or a well, believing that the flowing water would carry the charm's intent to its target, or that the coolness of the water would solidify the magical bond. Chosen location was not arbitrary. It was a site believed to be charged with specific energies, or to serve as a gateway to the unseen world, capable of transmitting the charm's powerful influence. The act of burying or submerging the lead was the final, irreversible step, marking the completion of the ritual and the surrender of the intention to the forces believed to be at play. The belief in the efficacy of these lead tablets was pervasive, though often unspoken. Those who practiced such charms rarely spoke of them openly, fearing accusations of witchcraft or heresy from the church. Yet archaeological finds of such tablets across Europe suggest that these practices were not isolated incidents but a widespread, albeit clandestine, aspect of medieval life. These recovered tablets, etched with names and strange symbols, offer a silent testament to the desperate hopes and desires of people from centuries past. Individuals who turned to the dark, pliable metal as a last resort in the elusive quest for love. The inscriptions on these ancient lead fragments continue to echo the silent pleas of hearts long turned to dust, a poignant reminder of the enduring human need for connection and belonging, a need so profound that it drove people to engage with the hidden esoteric arts of the age. Number 6. The Loostrife and St. Agnes Charm. The medieval world was a tapestry woven with threads of deep faith, practical folk, magic, and the ever-present yearning for connection. For young women, especially, the prospect of marriage and finding a suitable partner was a dominant concern, often intertwined with their spiritual life. One charm blending herbal lore with the invocation of a revered saint was the Loostrife and St. Agnes charm. This was not a charm of compulsion or forceful binding, but rather one of revelation and attraction, seeking divine and natural aid to reveal or draw a future spouse. St. Agnes, a virgin martyr, was a popular figure of devotion, particularly associated with purity, and, by extension, with dreams of one's future husband, especially on her feast day, January 21st. Her association with young women made her a natural patron for such romantic inquiries. The core herbal component of this charm was Loostrife. While not as prominently featured in love spells as vervain or mandrake, certain varieties of Loostrife, particularly purple Loostrife, were believed in some traditions to possess properties related to peace, warding off discord. Its vibrant purple flowers, blooming in summer might have contributed to its visual appeal and its association with passion or vitality. The belief was that the plant, when properly gathered and incorporated into a ritual, could open pathways to prophetic dreams or enhance one's natural attractiveness. The gathering of the loosestrife was often as important as its use. It was typically collected on a specific day, perhaps under a waxing moon, to symbolize growth and increase, or at dawn when the dew was still fresh upon its leaves, believed to capture the plant's purest essence. The plant would be handled with reverence, perhaps with a quiet prayer or intention spoken over it as it was picked, acknowledging its natural power and aligning it with the charm's purpose. The ritual itself often began with the practitioner preparing for a specific night, most commonly the eve of St. Agnes. January 20th. This night was steeped in folklore as a time when the veil between the mundane and the spiritual was thin, allowing for prophetic dreams and visions. The young woman would undertake a period of purification before the charm, perhaps through fasting or through silence, refraining from speaking to anyone from sunset until sunrise the next day. This act of silence and abstinence was intended to heighten her spiritual sensitivity and focus her desires, making her a more receptive vessel for the saint's guidance and the plant's influence. Preparation might also include bathing, perhaps with an infusion of herbs known for cleansing, symbolizing a fresh start and an openness to love. Every action was deliberate, designed to build a powerful reservoir of intent. As night fell, the loosestrife, carefully gathered and perhaps dried, would be brought into the sleeping chamber. It was often placed under the pillow, alongside a small unlit candle, or arranged on a small altar or bedside table. The candle symbolized the light of truth and the illumination of the future, even if it remained unlit. Before going to sleep, the young woman would kneel by her bed, holding a piece of the loosestrife in her hands and silently or softly utter a prayer to St. Agnes. This prayer was not a casual request, but a heartfelt plea, expressing her longing for a loving partner and asking the saint to intercede on her behalf. The words were often deeply personal, expressing her hopes and dreams for a future filled with companionship and affection. She might describe the qualities she sought in a partner, painting a vivid mental picture for the saint. The prayer might invoke St. Agnes by her attributes. "O St. Agnes, pure and true, guide me to my love anew. Let my dreams reveal tonight the one who holds my heart's true light." The focus was on revelation, on dreaming of the person she was destined to marry. This was not about compelling someone to love her against their will, but rather about unveiling the path to her true soulmate, a more gentle and divinely sanctioned approach to love magic. The act of placing the loosestrife under the pillow was believed to infuse her dreams with its prophetic energy, while the saint's blessing would ensure the dream was clear and accurate. The silence maintained throughout the night was crucial. Any spoken word, any distraction could break the delicate connection and spoil the charm's efficacy, making the dream confusing or non-existent. During the night, it was believed that St. Agnes, through the influence of the loosestrife, would grant the practitioner a dream. This dream was supposed to reveal the face, or at least the likeness, of her future spouse. The dream might not be a clear, unambiguous vision, but rather a symbolic one, perhaps showing the person in a specific setting or engaging in a characteristic action. Leaving the young woman to interpret the signs upon waking, some accounts suggest the dream would show the future spouse coming to her offering a drink or performing some act of kindness or recognition. The anticipation of this dream was often intense, filling the practitioner with a mixture of excitement and trepidation as she drifted off to sleep, hoping for a glimpse into her marital future. Upon waking on the morning of St. Agnes Day, the young woman would try to recall every detail of her dream. The interpretation was vital. Sometimes the dream was so vivid that the identity of the person was clear. Other times it was more symbolic, requiring thoughtful contemplation or even consultation with a trusted elder or wise woman to decipher its meaning. The belief was that the dream once received provided a rodate, a glimpse of destiny, and that the person revealed in the dream would eventually enter her life. This charm offered a sense of control and foresight in a world where marriage was often a pragmatic arrangement, rather than a choice driven by personal affection. Provided hope and reassurance, alleviating some of the anxieties surrounding an uncertain future, promising that a destined partner existed and would eventually appear. The Lustreif and St. Agnes charm was a gentle form of love magic, blending traditional folk remedies with Christian piety. It offered a way for medieval women to actively participate in their own romantic destinies, seeking both natural and divine assistance in their quest for a loving partner. It was a reflection of a time when the boundaries between natural philosophy, spiritual belief, and everyday life were far more fluid than they are today, and when solutions to life's most profound dilemmas were often sought in the quiet whispers of the natural world and the intercession of the saints. The enduring appeal of such a charm lay in its promise of revelation and hope, a beacon in the often unpredictable journey toward companionship and marital bliss in the Middle Ages. Number 5. The Toads and Bones Amulet. In the medieval imagination, the natural world was brimming with hidden powers, and few creatures held as much mystique and unsettling potential as the toad. Not just a common amphibian, the toad was often associated with witchcraft, poisons, and the dark arts, yet paradoxically, it also featured in charms for healing, protection, and even love. Toads and Bones Amulet was one such macabre, yet fascinating love charm believed to compel affection and make the bearer irresistible. This was not a subtle charm. It was a potent piece of sympathetic magic, relying on the ancient belief that consuming or possessing a part of something powerful could transfer its essence. This particular charm carried a strong whiff of illicit practices, often performed by those dabbling in the darker edges of folk magic, far removed from the mainstream religious practices of the time. The central and most unsettling component of this amulet was a specific bone from a toad. The acquisition of this bone was a ritual in itself, demanding a certain bravery and a stomach for the grotesque. The process often began with catching a live toad. This was not an ordinary toad, but one sawed with purpose, perhaps one found in a liminal space like a crossroads or a graveyard, places believed to hold special magical energy. The catching of the toad was often done under specific lunar phases, such as a new moon or a full moon, to align the ritual with powerful cosmic influences. Once caught, the toad was subjected to a chilling procedure. Some accounts describe boiling the toad alive in a pot of water, while others speak of burying it alive in an anthill, or even leaving it to decompose naturally under a specific tree. The intention was to strip the flesh from the bones, leaving only the skeletal structure. The most common method, however, was boiling. The boiling process was precise. A black unglazed pot was often used, filled with clean water, and the toad was placed inside. The water would be brought to a boil, and the toad cooked until its flesh separated from its bones. The practitioner would then meticulously sift through the pot, often using a perforated spoon or colander, looking for a particular bone. Different traditions spoke of different bones. Some accounts specify a Y-shaped bone from the toad's chest, believed to resemble the cross, which could then be used to gain favor in various dealings. Others mentioned a bone from the head or spine, each supposedly possessing a unique power. The specific bone sought was crucial, as it was believed to hold the concentrated essence of the toad's magic, its unsettling power to attract or repel. It was a gruesome treasure hunt, a search for a magical key within the creature's remains. Once the desired bone was isolated, it underwent a further process of purification and activation. It would be carefully cleaned, perhaps by rinsing it in running water or by smudging it with purifying herbs, like frankincense or rosemary. Despite the inherent dark nature of the charm, the bone was then often dried, sometimes by the light of the moon or by a slow burning fire, to ensure its preservation and to concentrate its power. During this drying process, incantations might be whispered over the bone, imbuing it with the practitioner's specific intentions for love and attraction. The incantations were usually short, rhythmic, and commanding, spoken softly but with intense focus, naming the desired individual, and the power the bone was meant to exert over them. The bone, now cleansed and charged, was ready to become an amulet. The bone was then carefully wrapped in a piece of fine cloth, often silk or linen, and typically of a specific color associated with love or desire, such as red or green. This cloth served to protect the bone, to contain its power, and to make it discreet for carrying. It was then sewn into a small pouch or tied with a string, to be worn around the neck, hidden beneath clothing, or carried in a pocket. The closer the amulet was to the practitioner's skin, the stronger its perceived effect. The belief was that the power of the toad bone, once worn, would emanate from the wearer, making them irresistibly attractive to the person they desired. It was a charm intended to instill a powerful, almost unnatural longing in the target, a yearning that they could not ignore. The power of the toad bone was not limited to mere attraction. Some traditions suggested it could also make the bearer a formidable presence, enabling them to command respect and affection from others, not just a specific individual. It was a charm for compelling, for bending another's will. The person carrying the amulet would approach their desired love interest, trusting that the unseen power of the bone would work upon the target's affections. It was believed to overcome resistance, to dissolve animosity, and to plant the seeds of deep desire where none existed before. The very unsettling nature of its creation was, perhaps, what gave it its perceived potency. The act of confronting death and decay to extract a magical essence made the charm feel particularly powerful and forbidden. Stories, often whispered in hushed tones, spoke of the successful use of these amulets of individuals who suddenly found themselves pursued by those they had long admired from afar. These narratives, whether true or exaggerated, reinforced the belief in the amulet's power, perpetuating its use despite the risks involved. The very act of preparing such an amulet was a dangerous one, not just because of the gruesome task, but because of the fear of discovery and the severe consequences that could follow from engaging in such illicit, magical practices. Yet the desperate longing for love, the desire to overcome rejection, often pushed individuals to embrace such forbidden means, seeking a power that transcended the normal bounds of human interaction. Toadbone amulet stood as a stark reminder of the lengths to which some people would go, confronting the macabre and the forbidden in their relentless pursuit of love. Number 4. The pig's heart charm. In the medieval world, where sympathetic magic held significant sway, the heart, revered as the seat of emotion and life, naturally became a potent symbol in love charms. Among the more visceral and disturbing practices was the pig's heart charm, a grim ritual designed not to attract love gently, but to compel and bind the affections of a specific person. This was not a charm for the faint of heart, or for those seeking a casual fling. It was a deeply committed, almost aggressive act of magical coercion, performed by those who felt their love unrequited, or who wished to control another's desires. The use of a pig's heart was symbolic. As pigs were common animals, their hearts readily available, and their robust nature was seen as embodying strong, even stubborn, life force. The very act of manipulating a heart, albeit an animal one, was believed to directly influence the heart of the desired person, bending their will to the practitioner's wishes. The central component of this charm was a freshly acquired pig's heart. The freshness was crucial, as it was believed to retain the vital essence and magical potency. Persons seeking to perform this charm would acquire the heart from a butcher, perhaps under the guise of preparing a meal, or from a recent slaughter, ensuring it was still warm and pliable. The heart was often kept separate from other meats, treated with a certain reverence for its symbolic power. The blood, or the remnants of it, was also considered potent, carrying life force and therefore magical energy. The heart itself, a muscular organ, was a direct representation of the target's affections and emotional core, making it an ideal vessel for such a binding spell. The ritual often began in the quiet solitude of night under a specific lunar phase, such as the waning moon to diminish resistance, or the new moon to initiate a new powerful bond. The heart would be laid upon a clean surface, perhaps a wooden board or a piece of parchment. The practitioner would then take 7, 9, or 13 sharp needles or thorns. The number of needles was significant, often corresponding to specific magical numbers or days of the week, imbuing the ritual with numerical symbolism. These needles or thorns were not ordinary. Sometimes they were specifically prepared, perhaps by being passed through a flame or dipped in a magical oil to enhance their piercing and binding properties. Each needle was intended to represent a specific desire or to pierce a particular emotional resistance in the target's heart. With each needle, the practitioner would pierce the pig's heart, driving the sharp point deep into the muscle. As each needle was inserted, a specific incantation or phrase would be whispered. These phrases were often direct commands, such as, "By this point, I bind your heart, kind name of target, to me," or "Let your love for me grow with each pierce," or even phrases invoking a spirit or entity to assist in the binding. Practitioner would visualize the desired individual's heart being similarly pierced and filled with an overwhelming desire for them. The physical act of piercing was a powerful act of sympathetic magic, directly mirroring the desired effect on the target's emotional state. The resistance of the heart to the needles, the slight effort required to push them through, was a direct physical manifestation of the struggle to break down the target's emotional barriers. In addition to the needles, a small piece of parchment was often used. On this parchment, the name of the desired individual was written, sometimes alongside the name of the practitioner, often intertwined or in a circle, representing the binding of their fates. The ink used for this inscription was rarely mundane. It might be prepared from specific herbs, or even mixed with a drop of the practitioner's own blood, further strengthening the magical link and personalizing the charm. This piece of parchment, once inscribed, would be carefully wrapped around the heart or inserted into a slit made within the heart itself, ensuring its proximity to the powerful organ. The inclusion of the written names made the charm highly specific, directing its potent energy towards the intended target with unwavering focus. Once the heart was pierced with the requisite number of needles, and perhaps inscribed with the names, it was prepared for burial. The burial site was crucial, as it was believed to either anchor the spell or allow its energy to emanate outwards. Common burial locations included crossroads, believed to be places of power and intersection, or beneath the threshold, symbolizing a crossing into a new state of being, or even in a graveyard, to harness the raw energy of death and transformation. Some variations suggested burying the heart beneath the target's house, or in a place they frequently visited to ensure they were constantly exposed to the charm's subtle influence. The act of burying the heart was the final, irreversible step, signifying the casting of the spell and the release of its power into the world. Pig's heart charm was believed to work slowly yet inexorably. The heart buried in the earth would decompose over time, and as it decayed, the love for the practitioner in the target's heart was believed to grow stronger and more irresistible. The decay was symbolic of the breaking down of resistance and the blossoming of uncontrollable desire. It was a charm that offered a sense of grim satisfaction to the desperate lover, believing that they had set in motion an unstoppable force that would eventually deliver their desired outcome. The very nature of this charm, with its use of fresh animal organs and sharp implements, spoke of a deep-seated desperation and a willingness to transgress conventional boundaries in the relentless pursuit of romantic fulfillment. Such practices, though often condemned by official religious authorities, persisted in the hidden corners of medieval society, a testament to the enduring human longing for love, and the willingness to seek it through any means, however dark or forbidden. Number 3. The dream of the future spouse. In the often uncertain landscape of medieval life, young people, particularly young women, yearned for some glimpse into their future, especially concerning marriage. With arranged marriages common and social status paramount, finding a loving partner was a matter of both destiny and practicality. The dream of the future spouse was a widely popular and relatively benign love charm, practiced across various social strata, offering a hopeful peek into one's marital future. This charm relied on the belief that during sleep the soul could wander or that divine and mystical forces could communicate through dreams, revealing truths otherwise hidden. It was a practice rooted in folk wisdom often passed down through generations, making it accessible even to those without formal magical training. The most common version of this charm involved specific preparations before going to bed, usually performed on particular nights of the year known for their enhanced magical potency. St. Agnes' Eve, January 20th, was arguably the most famous and widely observed night for such rituals. But other nights, like Midsummer's Eve or Halloween, were also considered propitious. The chosen night was believed to thin the veil between the mundane world and the realm of prophetic visions, making communication through dreams clearer and more accurate. The anticipation surrounding these nights was often palpable, as young people across villages and towns prepared for their nocturnal venture into foresight. Preparation for the dream charm typically began with a period of ritual purification or specific actions designed to heighten receptivity. One popular method involved consuming a special highly salted cake before bed. This cake was often made from flour, salt, and sometimes other ingredients baked without yeast and eaten without a drop of water. The extreme thirst induced by the salty cake was believed to make the dreamer more receptive to a vision, and the first person to offer them a drink in their dream would be their future spouse. This was a classic piece of sympathetic magic. The physical thirst was believed to manifest as a spiritual thirst for revelation, drawing the vision into the dream. The act of eating the cake, often in silence and solitude, was a meditative one, focusing the mind on the charm's purpose. Another common pre-sleep ritual involved sleeping alone and in complete silence. From the moment the charm began until waking the next morning, no word was to be spoken. This silence was not merely practical, it was a powerful symbolic act. It was believed to create a pure channel for the dream vision, preventing any external sounds or conversations from disrupting the delicate mystical connection. The stillness of the night, amplified by the enforced silence, was believed to create an ideal environment for prophetic dreams to manifest, making the dreamer a receptive blank slate for divine messages. This solitary silence was often difficult to maintain, particularly in crowded medieval homes, making the successful completion of the charm a testament to the practitioner's dedication. In some variations, additional objects were placed in the sleeping chamber or under the pillow. A piece of rosemary, often associated with remembrance and love, might be placed beneath the pillow, or a sprig of yarrow. Another herb with divinatory properties was believed to enhance dream visions. Sometimes a Bible or prayer book was placed under the pillow, combining folk magic with Christian piety, invoking divine guidance for the dream. A shoe or a stocking might also be placed in a specific position, such as over the bedpost, or even a small mirror to symbolically reflect and reveal the future. Each object was chosen for its symbolic meaning, believed to amplify the charm's power and direct the dream toward the desired outcome. Core of the charm was the belief that the future spouse would appear in the dream. The dream was not always a direct vision of their face. Sometimes it would be more symbolic, showing the person engaging in a specific activity, wearing certain clothing, or in a particular setting. Common dream scenario involved a future spouse approaching the dreamer, offering a drink or sharing a meal. These acts were not merely social gestures within the dream, they were profound symbols of shared life, intimacy, and the fulfillment of the longing for companionship. The dream was believed to be a premonition, a glimpse of a destiny that would eventually unfold in waking life. Upon waking, the most crucial step was to recall every detail of the dream. Colors, the actions, the appearance of the person, even the emotions felt during the dream. All were considered significant clues. The interpretation of these dreams often involved discussing them with trusted friends or family members, particularly older women who might have experience with such charms in their interpretation. The dream provided a sense of hope and a personalized destiny, a comforting thought in a world where individual choice in matters of the heart was often limited. For many, the dream of the future spouse was not just a playful piece of magic, but a serious quest for insight into their most significant life decision and attempt to connect with the unseen forces believed to govern their romantic fate. Number 2. The apple of destiny. Apple, a common and beloved fruit across medieval Europe, was more than just a source of sustenance. It was a potent symbol of love, fertility, and knowledge, often featured in various folk customs and charms. Among these, the apple of destiny charm stood out as a popular and relatively simple method for divining one's future spouse or revealing a beloved's true feelings. This charm was particularly favored by young, unmarried individuals, offering a playful yet earnest attempt to peer into the mysteries of their romantic future. It was a charm rooted in the belief that certain natural objects, when handled with specific intent, could unlock hidden truths and provide glimpses of fate. The apple's roundness, its sweetness, and its association with love in various myths and legends made it an ideal vessel for such divinatory practices. One prevalent method of the apple of destiny charm involved the meticulous peeling of an apple. The practitioner would take a whole apple, often chosen for its perfect appearance, and begin to peel it in one continuous strip. The aim was to keep the peel intact without breaking it, a task requiring steady hands and immense concentration. Each successful turn of the knife or hand keeping the long strip of peel unbroken was believed to build the charm's power and increase the likelihood of a clear revelation. This act was often performed in solitude, perhaps at night, to focus the practitioner's intent and prevent any distractions from breaking the delicate strip of peel. The unbroken peel symbolized a continuous, unbroken line of destiny, leading to the future partner. Once the entire apple was peeled in a single unbroken strip, the next crucial step followed. The practitioner would then swing the long unbroken peel over their head 3 times, or sometimes 9 times, each swing accompanied by a silent wish or invocation for clarity. The number of swings was significant, often adhering to specific magical numbers believed to enhance the charm's efficacy. After the swings, the peel was then tossed over the left shoulder. The left side was often associated with the heart, with intuition, and with the feminine, making it a symbolic pathway for love and revelation. The peel, once it landed on the ground, was then carefully observed. The shape it formed was believed to reveal the initial of the future spouse. The letters could be ambiguous, requiring careful interpretation and a discerning eye, but the excitement of seeing any letter-like shape in the tangled peel was enough to fuel hope and speculation. Another variation of the apple of destiny involved sleeping with the apple. A young person, often a woman, would eat a whole apple, perhaps a particularly sweet or red one, before going to bed. The core or the seeds, or sometimes even the entire apple, if only a small bite was taken, would then be carefully placed under the pillow. This was often done on a night known for its magical potency, such as St. Thomas's Eve or a similar designated night for divination. As with the dream charm, the intent was to induce a prophetic dream. It was believed that the apple, imbued with the dreamer's longing, would draw forth a vision of their future love. The dream would typically show the desired person or their likeness, revealing their identity to the dreamer. A different form of apple divination, more communal and playful, involved floating apple seeds in water. This was often done during social gatherings or festive occasions. Each person would name an apple seed after a potential suitor or crush. The seeds would then be carefully dropped into a bowl of water. The way the seeds moved, whether they floated together, drifted apart, or sank, was believed to reveal the romantic compatibility or the likelihood of a match. Seeds that floated together were seen as a positive sign indicating a future union, while those that separated or sank were interpreted as a negative omen. This version of the charm was less about deep personal ritual and more about light-hearted communal prognostication, but it still reflected the deep-seated belief in the apple's divinatory power. The apple of destiny. Charm was not only a means of seeking answers, but also a social ritual. It often fostered lively discussions among young people as they interpreted the shapes of peels, discussed their prophetic dreams, or debated the movements of the apple seeds. These shared experiences reinforced community bonds and provided a sanctioned outlet for discussing matters of the heart in a society where public expression of personal affection was often restrained. The very simplicity and accessibility of the apple made these charms widespread, transcending social classes and reaching into nearly every household where a common fruit could be found. The enduring appeal of the apple of destiny lay in its blend of the ordinary and the extraordinary. Common fruit, transformed through focused intent and simple rituals, became a conduit to the future, offering a glimmer of hope and predictability in an unpredictable world. It was a testament to the medieval belief that magic could be found, not just in arcane texts or dark incantations, but in the everyday objects and natural cycles that governed their lives. The apple, in its unassuming way, offered a sweet taste of destiny, a promise of love to come, and a comforting sense that one's romantic fate, however uncertain, might just be revealed by a simple fruit and a hopeful heart. Number 1. The Vervain Potion. In the medieval apothecary of desires, where herbs and intentions blended into potent concoctions, few plants held as much mystical significance as vervain, known by various names such as holy herb or enchanter's plant. Vervain was steeped in ancient folklore, believed to possess powerful magical properties, including its ability to attract love. The Vervain potion was one of the most celebrated and complex medieval love charms, relying on the careful preparation and administration of this venerated herb. This was not a simple folk remedy. It was a sophisticated piece of herbal magic, drawing upon the perceived sympathetic properties of the plant, its connection to celestial bodies, and its ability to influence human emotion. The belief was that vervain, when properly harvested and brewed, could awaken deep affection and even compel love. The acquisition of vervain was the crucial first step. This was not a casual gathering of weeds. The herb had to be collected under specific conditions to maximize its magical potency. Medieval herbals and grimoires often specified that vervain should be harvested during certain lunar phases, such as the full moon or the new moon, or at specific times of day, like dawn or dusk, when the plant's energies were believed to be at their peak. It was often recommended to pluck the vervain with the left hand, without the use of metal tools, and with specific words or prayers whispered over it, acknowledging its power and dedicating it to the purpose of love. Some traditions suggested cutting it with a golden sickle, a practice reminiscent of ancient druidic rites, further enhancing its perceived magical strength. The very act of collecting the plant was a ritualistic one, imbuing the herb with the practitioner's fervent desire. Once gathered, the vervain would be prepared for the potion. The method of preparation varied, but it often involved drying the herb and then grinding it into a fine powder or infusing it in liquid. Potion itself could take various forms: a drinkable concoction, an oil for anointing, or a powder to be sprinkled. The most common form was a drinkable potion mixed with other ingredients to enhance its efficacy, or to mask the taste of the vervain, which could be bitter. These additional ingredients were not random. They were chosen for their own symbolic or believed magical properties. Rose petals, for example, were often included for their universal association with love and beauty. Honey, a symbol of sweetness and attraction, might be added to make the potion palatable and to sweeten the target's disposition. The preparation of the potion often occurred under specific astrological conditions, such as when Venus, the planet of love, was in a favorable position, or during a specific hour of the day ruled by Venus. The brewing process itself was often slow and deliberate, perhaps over a low flame, with the practitioner continuously stirring the mixture in a clockwise direction, symbolizing growth and attraction. Incantations or prayers were often recited over the bubbling concoction, repeating the name of the desired person and expressing the desire for their love. The steam rising from the pot was believed to carry the intentions upwards, imbuing the air with a charm's power. The very act of watching the potion brew, feeling the warmth of the fire, and inhaling the fragrant steam was designed to deepen the practitioner's focus and intent. The challenge of the vervain potion lay in its administration. The potion was designed to be consumed by the desired individual, a task that often required stealth and cunning. It could not simply be offered directly, as the target would likely refuse a strange homemade brew. Instead, the practitioner would often seek to surreptitiously mix the potion into the target's food or drink. A small amount, perhaps just a few drops or a pinch of powder, would be slipped into a cup of wine, a bowl of soup, or even a piece of bread. The goal was for the target to consume the vervain, unknowingly allowing its magical properties to work from within. This clandestine act required careful planning and opportunity, making it a charm that tested the practitioner's patience and resourcefulness. The belief in the vervain potion's effects was profound. Once consumed, the vervain was believed to work on the target's heart and mind, gradually instilling an irresistible affection for the practitioner. It was not a sudden burst of passion, but a gradual, compelling warmth, a growing tenderness that would lead to unwavering devotion. The charm was believed to overcome any existing indifference or resistance, transforming it into deep love. Some believed it could even mend broken relationships or rekindle fading affections. The vervain, in its mystical capacity, was thought to soften the target's heart, making them receptive to love and binding them emotionally to the person who administered the potion. Consequences of such a charm, if discovered, could be severe in medieval society, ranging from social ostracism to accusations of witchcraft. Despite these risks, the desperate longing for love, the desire to control one's romantic destiny in a world of limited choice, often drove individuals to employ such potent and clandestine methods. The vervain potion, shrouded in secrecy and steeped in ancient lore, stands as a powerful testament to the enduring human quest for love and the lengths to which people in the Middle Ages were willing to go, believing that the hidden powers of nature and the unseen forces of the cosmos could be harnessed to achieve their deepest romantic desires. The stories of its supposed efficacy, passed down through generations, solidified its place as one of the most compelling and intriguing love charms of its time.